CapCut is a free editor and it really simplifies the whole video editing process. And in my 15 years of video editing, this might be the best beginner-friendly tool for creating any type of video. So if you're making TikTok videos, really any social media videos and YouTube videos, this is a really, really good tool to get started with. And CapCut has helped me with growing my TikTok to over 600,000 followers. And I also use it for YouTube Shorts, and that's helped me get over 750,000 YouTube subscribers too. And to access CapCut, if you go to CapCut.com, there's multiple different versions of CapCut. So you have a version that is for Mac and Windows. So if you're using Windows 11, Windows 10, you could download it, you'll have an icon. I'm on a Mac, so it says download for a Mac. They have this option called Edit Videos Online. Let me just click on it for a second. This brings you to a whole different style of video editor. I'm not gonna cover this one because the version that's actually really powerful, the one I use, is the one where you download for your computer. I did cover their mobile app too. They have a really good mobile app, but it's nowhere near what we're gonna cover here, which is the desktop version that you download to a computer. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the entire editing process, and I'm gonna put numbers to the steps. So when you go to create a video from scratch, it doesn't matter if it's your very first video or if you've been editing for a while and you're switching, this is gonna walk you very step by step through the entire process. Okay, so first, CapCut.com, press download here for your Mac or for your Windows if you're on Windows, and then go through the installation process. And once you open CapCut, it's gonna look like this, and we're gonna cover the free version of CapCut. But there's another thing called CapCut Pro. So you'll see over here, it says Join Pro. You might see that, and some of the options are going to require the Pro version. Nothing we're gonna cover in this video though. So for example, just to show you one, this one says auto reframe. If you click it, it helps you quickly reframe videos for different sizes. So let's say you shot your video like the one you're watching now, but you want to turn it for TikTok. This lets you automatically do it. We could manually do it too though, so we don't have to worry about that. This is kind of one of the AI options. And they have a ton of AI options that they recently added, so I'm going to cover those, the free ones, in this video, and I'll point out some of the paid ones for you to explore on your own. On this page, basically, this is the page you're gonna land on every single time you open CapCut, and typically you wanna press new project to start from scratch. All your recent projects though do show up right here. This is a more recent install I have, so I only have 10 projects right now on it. And then you have this thing called script to video as well. This is really interesting AI tool. So you could enter a script, copy and paste a script here, and then you could basically generate an entire video out of it. I'll make a dedicated video for this one. This is a newer option, but we're gonna go ahead and do typical video editing. There's a bunch of AI tools still inside of this new projects tab. On the left side, you have something called templates. So you could start with these templates. These are great if you're creating type of social media ads. For organic content, I haven't found much use for them, but they have them in a ton of different categories. They have a specific for TikTok category too, to make it really easy to create a ton of videos there. And then you also have this thing called spaces. So you could organize everything. It's called a brand kit. So if you have a logo for your company, for example, if you have images you want to constantly use, you could add those here. But right now, let's go back to the homepage and let's create a new project here from scratch. So in our steps, that is the very first step, creating a new project by pressing the plus sign. It's gonna bring you inside of CapCut, and I'll walk you through exactly what's happening over here as we go through the video. But the first thing I do in the same step is name the project. So up here, it says 1201, name it whatever you want, because remember, it's gonna save it where you saw all my 10 projects. It's gonna save it there automatically. So you could come back to it, make revisions and things like that. So you don't have to just sit there and finish a project all at once. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is right over here on this panel, which is your import panel. And before I show you how to import, basically this is a very simple layout. On the left side here, this is where all your media, your pictures, your videos, your audio, anything is gonna appear over here. And this is where you would import it to as your second step. And here is gonna be the preview. It says player, so everything that you're going to edit is gonna appear right in the middle here. And down here is called your timeline. In every video editor, the timeline is where all the actual editing takes place. So you'll see this get filled out as we go, and then details, and this actually will change over time as well, this details panel, so I'll walk you through that. But right now, step two, import media, press plus. And then once you press import, it's gonna open up folders in your computer. So I organized a couple of different clips here that I'm gonna show you. Let me just go ahead and show you what this is. One is just a screen capture you've already seen. This is the first time I recorded it. And then the second one is just me talking, again, what it looks like in the beginning of the video you're watching right now. So this is gonna be a real project that I already recorded. And then I'm gonna show you how to add photos and music and things like that too. But you could select one or multiple different things. If you recorded on a camera or your phone, you could, again, drop it to your computer because this is all gonna take place here. I'm gonna press import, and there we go. We have those two different clips. Now, there are some other ways to bring in clips. Let's say you don't have any or you wanna add things to your existing footage. You could go to AI generated, and this actually lets you create things from a text prompt. So if you wanna create images, you could go ahead and do that. At some point, I'm sure they're gonna add text to videos too. They don't have it right this second. Then you also have libraries, so you'll have a bunch of different options. There's a whole catalog of things actually here that you could search for, and then you could press this little download arrow. I'll just show you one as an example. Let me see if they have something regarding video editing. I'll do a search, and yeah, it looks like they have a bunch of different options here, so I'll go ahead and download one of them. And then this is gonna show up. You see this is in the preview window. It looks like this is a photo. So I could click this drop down and actually see if they have any videos. And they have a few different videos. Let's see what this one looks like. Let me press download. And once it's been downloaded, you could go ahead and press the plus sign. And this is gonna go ahead and add it down here to your timeline. So we're gonna look at doing this a little bit later, but this is gonna give you a whole library of additional footage that you did not create. So far, that's not where we're gonna start, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. We're gonna go back to local, and we're gonna start with whatever we imported first. Typically, you would record your own video and then go and do other things after that. Now, for step number 3, we need to change our aspect ratio. So that means these are shot for YouTube. They're kind of in that horizontal shape like movies are, but a lot of times we're creating videos for short form. We're going on TikTok or we're going on YouTube Shorts. So if we need to change our aspect ratio. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, first, we need to add something down here to our timeline. This is where the editing takes place. So right here, it's not gonna help us. We need to press the plus sign, and then it's gonna add it here. So our editing officially has started. The aspect ratio is this little icon after you import right over here. And 16:9, that's this shape that you're watching this on. But vertical is 9:16. So if you want to do vertical, you'll have to choose this. If you're doing square, you do 1:1. In this case, let me go ahead and do 9:16 just to show you. If you could see, there's a black 9:16 box, but our video wasn't shot that way. If your video was shot that way, then you don't have anything to worry about. This is going to fill the canvas. But if it wasn't shot that way, you need to kind of stretch this out to fill the whole canvas. Right now we have a 16:9 video, and then you got to make sure you're center frame. So if you look on the right side now, this menu has completely changed. It's moved away from details and it's giving you a whole bunch of new things. But if you're under video under basics, that's what it falls into. You could make adjustments here. So if you wanted to change the position, like if I go this way, actually if I grab and type in like 30, you could see I'm slightly moving. So if I type in something like 300, I'm gonna move even more. So this is your left to right, and then this one is gonna move you up and down. So -400, for example, I'm moving down now. Or you could just grab it and place yourself wherever you want, and you could see it's resetting these numbers. So you have those two controls. The easier way is just to center yourself this way, or whoever you have in the frame, just go ahead and center them, and you could see I've scaled this way up now. This is your scaling option that you could do over here too. In this video, I'm just gonna stick with the way it was shot, which is 16:9. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back to 100%. That's the normal way this video was made, and that's what we're gonna edit. But step 3 is changing your aspect ratio to wherever you're taking this to. Now there's that one paid AI adjustment I showed you, which if you come down here, it was called auto reframe. So this will make those decisions that I just showed you. It will do those automatically. But again, I'm assuming you're using the free ones, and we're gonna just manually go through that process. But this is a cool AI tool here to automatically make that change for you. So if you change it to vertical, click this, it will just frame you right. Okay, so for step number 4 now, that we're ready to do some editing, I'm gonna walk you through the basics of editing. So down here, let's go ahead and select this here. And you have a bunch of different options. So right now we're mainly gonna focus down here on our timeline. This is where all the editing takes place. So a really easy thing right here to make sure you could see things bigger and smaller is this slider over here. So you could go ahead and extend this out. So right now, if I grab this line right here, this is your indicator of where you are in the video, and you can see the preview is changing in real time up here. So if I move, I could see that around here, I'm done talking, right? So I did all my talking, now I'm done talking. So the first thing you typically do, you wanna just go ahead and cut the parts that you don't want. This entire part here, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm thinking, so I don't definitely need this part in the video. So right over here, you press this drop down. So I'm under select right now. This is how I got an arrow, but there's this thing called split. It looks like a little blade. That's your cut tool. So if you cut, now I have two different clips, right? And if I go back to the select tool, I could select this part and just press delete on my keyboard. And now that part of the video is gone. I could always bring it back. I could just grab the end here and select it. It's still there. I didn't remove it from my computer, but I removed it from my project here. So that's really nice. I could always decide to change things if I make a mistake. And then I do the same thing in the beginning. Like right now, let me see. I just was saying test, test. I have it on mute right now, so I could just talk through the tutorial. But if I press play, and spacebar is play, or you could press play from right over here, and it looks like I started talking right over here. So again, I choose the blade tool or the split tool, I select here, and then I go back and select A, and then if I press delete, it actually moves the entire clip here, so then it starts over here. Now you might think this is pretty time consuming, but once you're getting a little more comfortable, I just use the shortcuts. So I just use A to do the selection, and I use B on my keyboard to actually choose the cut tool. So the basic editing is just cutting the bad parts out. I don't know what the heck I was doing there. So I go over here, I choose B on my keyboard. You could see that changed it. I cut here, and I also made a mistake over here. And this is something in the middle now. So I made a mistake in the middle, so I could select that and cut, and it's gonna just ripple. This is called a ripple edit. In some other versions of video editors, it actually doesn't snap these two. It just leaves a big blank gap. And in this case, it did not do that, right? So this is really easy for us now. It just goes from here, it goes to the next part. Now, if you look down here too, you see this clip has audio. So you see all these little lines here. That means I'm talking. This was exactly from the beginning of this video when I was talking just like this. So I could kind of see that over here. We'll talk about working with audio in a bit, but this does help me. Let me just go ahead and zoom out a little bit more just to show you. I'm gonna highlight my mouse here so you can see a little bit better. Okay, here we go. You see how there's nothing being said here? There's a gap. So I could most likely tell this area was not usable. So again, if I choose the blade tool, I could cut here, then I could cut here when I started talking again. I'm just looking at this audio. This is called the audio waveform down here. And then I'll go back to A, that's my selection tool, press delete, and then it deleted that. You can see now I'm talking and I'm talking again. So I could do this with all these little gaps here where I'm not talking and cutting those out. And there's another way you could actually do basic editing, which typically I only use for the beginning and end. You could grab and then cut like this, right? So that way you could basically trim your clips or extend your clips, okay? And one last thing with basic editing, sometimes the order which you recorded things might not be in the exact order you want them in the edit. And it's really easy. You could just grab something and then bring it to the end. So maybe this part needed to be at the end, or this part needed to be at the end. And I'm telling you, from more advanced video editors, that would take like 4 different things to click on to do something like this. This makes it really, really easy. It doesn't leave a gap. It moves this over for you. All those things are very manual in other video editors. And that's why I chose this as one of the best ways to start editing, using a free tool here that everyone has access to on a computer. And again, they have a mobile version that's pretty good. Nowhere as advanced as this though. Now you'll notice a couple of other options over here. So I'll just point these out here. This one is undo and this one is redo, which are very useful. So this one is something I learned a keyboard shortcut for also. And then you have the split option. So this one does the same thing where it makes a cut, and this one deletes everything to the right of it, and this one deletes everything to the left of it. I'm just gonna undo that because I typically don't work with these at all. I use the selection tool, which is A, and I use the split or the cut tool, which is B. And that's pretty much it. I don't use these other options with the keyboard shortcut. And that helps you tell your story and take out all the parts you don't want in the video, right? Very straightforward process when it comes to that. Okay, and that brings us to step 5. This is called adding B-roll. That's when you add additional footage to enhance your story. So here I told my story, I talked through the whole thing. I still got to do a bunch of other fancy things like transitions, filters, work with audio. So we have a few more steps, but adding B-roll could be two different things. One could be, well, I had the screen recording here. So if I grab this, I could put it on top of my other video. You see how it's laying on top? It's created another video track for us. And it looks like this has its own audio track too. In this case, we don't want the audio track from here. So I'm going to just grab this line. You see this line? I'm going to bring it to infinity symbol here. Right? You see that? This is basically muting the audio track. One of the easiest ways to do it. Because I don't want my B-roll to have audio because I'm talking in the background. So if I press play right now, let me go ahead and show you what it sounds like. For organic content, I haven't found much use for them, but they have them in a ton of different categories. Okay, so you could see I'm talking in the background, but now you're looking at the screen, right? Very useful. This is what you would do for adding B-roll. And typically, I could grab the beginning of this and stretch it out. So then what's gonna happen is you're gonna see me talking. CapCut is a free editor and it really simplifies the whole video. And then it cuts to the second layer. So as long as the second layer is empty, it's gonna show the first layer. As soon as something shows on the second layer, it's gonna show the second layer. And again, I'm gonna choose B to make a cut here. And then I could choose again A here and delete the rest. So it's gonna go to me talking, it's gonna go to this, and then it's gonna go back to me talking. That is called adding B-roll. And obviously, B-roll doesn't just have to be screen capture. It could be other things you're talking about. So again, we could go to our library here. And remember, we looked at some of the footage like video editing. So I'll go back to video editing. I'm talking about video editing. I'm gonna search. I'm gonna choose video in this case. And these are the options we had. And I already downloaded this one here. So I could just press the plus sign. And this is gonna tell me something about color space. I'm gonna go ahead and adapt the color space. Now, as you can see, it's added it to track 1 and it's actually erased what was already there. Not at all what I want. This is a common mistake that ends up happening when you're adding B-roll. So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna bring this back. So I want this one on a different track, not the one where I'm talking. That's gonna defeat the purpose of it. So I'm gonna grab it here and it's trying to put it on track 2, or you could even put it on a new track, track 3. This is something related again to color space. I'm gonna adapt the color space. This is just making sure it's matching the entire setup I have here. Too technical, we don't have to worry about it, just adapt and it should be fine. And as you could see now, this will be my screen capture track. This will be, the first one's my talking track. And now we have a third track, which is gonna be any additional footage I wanna bring in from this library of footage. Now I wanna point out one other platform while we're here. CapCut and other video editors do give you assets that you have the right to use. They're part of that subscription, so you could use them in YouTube and things like that. So music and the footage you saw, the photos, you could use them, but they're somewhat limited. They're always gonna be limited. So if you wanna take your editing to the next level, what I use, I've used this for about 4 years, maybe longer. It's called Envato Elements. And here, if you go to the stock video tab, you could access hundreds of thousands of clips that are, again, what's called royalty free. That means as long as you have a subscription to this platform, you have the right to use them. This is gonna elevate your editing. Again, this is a paid subscription, but if you're more serious about editing, this is typically the next step I recommend. Once you learn a free editor, subscribe to a platform like this so you could get a ton of other assets like stock video. But I also get like sound effects from here and music and things like that. And they have a ton of them. And it's all under one subscription, which is great. You don't have to pay for something for stock video and something for music. And this has, again, probably multi-millions of different audio tracks for music. And they have really fancy things for YouTube animation and TikTok animation under graphic templates and video templates too. So I just wanted to point this out while we're talking about adding B-roll, one of my favorite platforms, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to try it out. Okay, then in the rest of this process in step 5 of adding B-roll, just go through and if anything makes sense for you to add, go ahead and add it and then tell your story in the most complete way so it's not just you talking over here. So that's typically what I do next. I'll show you if you add a photo as well. I'll just choose a photo option over here and I'm gonna go ahead and download this one first and then it's downloaded. So now I'm gonna go ahead and grab it and I'm gonna put it on track 4. So track 4 is gonna become my photos. And with photos, it's really nice. You could just stretch them kind of to infinity because videos have a beginning and ending. Photos don't. They kind of could just stretch as long as you want them to be on screen. So we got video, we got photo, we got back to me, you got screen capture. Anything you could imagine you could add in these multiple different tracks, and it should make your life a lot easier. Okay, so step 4 and 5, that was really the basics of editing. You have some other things here with these little icons. Again, you don't need to worry about that. What I showed you should really help you 95% of your way there with all the editing tools that you need. But now here are the other things we need to do. So a few more steps here before we could actually finish our project. Usually number 6, the step 6 is adding music, and then step 7 is going to be us mixing the audio levels. So if you're talking, the music has to be at a certain level, your voice has to be at a certain level. If you're just using music, you got to know how to kind of mix that. So we'll talk about those in the next 2 steps. So adding music, how do we do that? Well, if you look down here, you could add it to another track too. So where are the places where we could add audio? Well, right here. Right now we were under media this whole time, but there's this thing called audio, and this changes the menu. So this is something to pay attention to. As you change these menus, everything underneath it changes. So we're gonna go through some of these as we finished our project. So under music, these are what's called royalty-free music, or things that CapCut has access to for you to use with your subscription. In this case, it's a free subscription, so you could use any of these. So you could click on any of them. Let me actually lower the volume here. And then you could listen to them. Okay, let's say I like this one. I'm gonna go ahead and press the plus sign to add it to a track. So it's gonna go ahead and do that. And wherever this white line is, the technical term is called a time indicator. So wherever this is where it's gonna add it when you press the plus sign. That's the same thing for videos and photos too. When you press the plus sign, it adds it here. So if I move it to the beginning, and if I press the plus sign, it's gonna add it to the beginning, or I could just move it. This is just like the other things where all the other tools that we looked at, so like the blade tool, for example, the split tool lets you make cuts just like this too. So you could cut any portion of them. In this case, I don't need to cut any of it, but if it's not long enough, what I could do is I could go over here. So I'll go back to the select tool. I'll bring this time indicator here, and then I could add another track like this. So you can see now it's gonna just fade in from this one and it'll start with this one. So that way you could just keep adding it, and if it's too long, just go ahead and make it as long as your project. So that's how you would add music. Again, this could be 2 different tracks. It could be the same track like I did. You could make any edits to it. And then you have to pay attention now to the volume. So adding music was 1 step. And again, remember, Envato Elements has like a million music tracks too. So if you don't find what you want here, that's something you could subscribe to. And here, make sure you run a copyright check too. So Envato gives you permission to use it. You have a license that you actually download, but here you could check if you have any copyright issues with your videos. TikTok and YouTube are very strict when you're bringing videos into them, that they actually have some kind of copyright or royalty-free type license to them. So just don't take any popular song and drop it here. YouTube and TikTok typically take those kind of videos down. That's why it's important to pick them from here. They have sound effects and other things that you could choose here, and they are all available for you to use. So now let's get to step 7, mixing audio. Mixing audio, again, is all about how loud one track is versus the other track. So you see this line, every audio track has it. So my video came with an audio track, that's this line right here. And then you also have this line right here for the music. You could lower it and make it higher. And this is really nice. By default, it brought us to over here to this basics audio editing tool. So when I select these, you see how these things change on this right side. So I'm under music, here's my music. So your volume, here's what you gotta pay attention to. If it's at 0, so if this just says 0, which is typically where you start, that's fine if your music is the only thing. If your music is not the only thing and you have me talking, let me just press play to show you what happens if this is the case. When I turn it for TikTok, this lets you automatically. Right, you can't hear me at all. The music is like way too loud. So I need to select the music, and typically you want to reduce that. This depends on the song So there's no rule to it. So typically around 25 dB, sometimes 30 dB or negative. It has to be negative. Now let me press play. Let me just raise it. We could manually do it too though, so we don't have to worry about that. This is kind of one of the AI. Okay, that's not too bad, but this is basic audio mixing. And if I wanted to mute myself, I could go ahead and mute myself. And there's another option too. If you right click on any clip on a Mac, so I need to press Control and then click, there's this option that says extract audio, and that separates the video and the audio. So this is actually now my audio track, and my video, you see that little audio is now separated. So if I wanted more fine-tuned control and have the audio track separately, this gets a little bit more professional, but sometimes you want to do this. And again, if I want to just delete this audio, I could select and delete it, and the music would take over. I'll just have to raise it again at this level. And as you see, it's approaching red here. So let me go ahead and press play. Okay, when it's approaching red, it's usually bad. So if I raise this all the way up, it's gonna be kind of distorted. And that is not what you want. So typically, you just pay attention that there's not too much red here. You also have a waveform over here. So if you click this, or this is like an audio level, let me press play. You see this? So typically, you don't want it to hit 0. You want it to be under, usually under -6 actually is where you want, unless it's just music playing. So if I go back here and press play, and then you can basically generate. Okay, that's not bad. I'm under -6, very audible. If I want to raise my volume here, again, I could grab and bring this up. Let's say it's too low. I'll bring it up to 4 or 3. I'll make a dedicated video. Okay, now it's approaching 0, right? So that's audio mixing. You want to just make sure it doesn't go over 0. That's this little icon over here to give you this audio meter. Okay, we're done with audio mixing. Let's say we finished that. Let's go to the next step, and that is going to take place up here, which typically, if you look from left to right, it says deal with media, then deal with audio, then add any text. So that's typically the next step in the process, is adding text. So how do we add text? Well, right here, it says default text. We press the plus sign. It's going to make a new track. So this one, you can see this, it says a text track. These had the little video icon. So for B-roll and me talking, that was all that. So I could stretch this out. The nice thing about text, again, it's like photos. You could stretch it out as long as you want and have it be on screen like this. You could grab it and place it anywhere too. So I want to bring it here, and I'm going to double click CapCut. And then with this text right here has changed my menu to the text menu, where I could go ahead and shrink or increase the size, all these options. I could make it bold. I could go ahead and change the color, the alignment. But this is really cool. It has these really nice one-click animations or styling that you could add to your text. So like maybe this is cool. And then I could bring it over here. So adding text is very, very easy over here. And they have all these different options, again, to make it very stylized. But they also have more advanced text. Like they have these like bubbles. So you could give yourself a thought bubble. Actually, it looks like I have to download these, and it's going to be more stylized this way. Ton of different options available over here. Let me just delete this one. I'll add another text. So if I go under text effects, you have more fancy things like maybe this one's cool. Organic content I have. Okay, let me just put this on mute. This one actually looks a whole lot better. So I'll type CapCut. Okay, I like this one a lot more, and I'll put it up here, for example, right? They also have text templates, lots of different ones for social media, for example. So these like options, you can see a lot of these are with the Pro version, but a lot of them don't have the Pro icon. So maybe this like option is cool. Let me go ahead and download this. Let me go ahead and see how that appears on screen. I'll press play. Okay, too much in the middle. Let's shrink this down and put it in the corner, right? This is typically in a YouTube video, that's at least where it would go. So those are the different type of texts. Now, since we're in the text mode, we should also talk about captions, because typically TikTok videos all have captions. TikTok allows you to do it in the app. YouTube, Instagram, they all allow you to do it in the app, but you could usually skip that if you're using CapCut. So this auto caption option is incredible. This is one of the AI tools I love inside of new video editing tools. So if you choose it, choose your language, press create, it actually goes and listens to the audio. So this was me talking, and it's going to create an entire caption file. And then I could go ahead and animate the captions for social media, right? You need it to really pop. You can't just have long, boring text. Let me show you what happens as soon as this is done. And look at this. This took less than 30 seconds and it's done a good job captioning it here. And with these captions, you see how they're all selected? I'm under text right now. And what I want to do is first, I could change the size. If I want to change the size, I could do it here. This is the size of the captions. But typically, this is what I want to do with captions. So there's all these different options for the captions that will change the style. So this one will change it with the outlines that you see. But there's this animation option, okay? And this will animate. But for captions, there is a whole captions icon. So it's under animation and captions. And these are really cool. So typically you want something like, a lot of these are pro. So let me show you a free one. Okay, this one is free. Let's see how that looks. I'll click on it. Okay, and then let's go ahead and press play. Okay, that's cool. It's showing only 4 or 5 words at a time. And as we go through, I'll press play. It's really good actually. For YouTube, it's perfect. For TikTok, you usually don't want as many words on the screen. Probably 3 or 4 words is the most you want. You don't want something that becomes this crowded. But this is really, really cool. And with these effects, you also have a bunch of different colors and styles too. So you could add those as well. So if I want like this kind of a color to it, I could go ahead and add it. This does not look good, so I'll select this one. Okay, that's pretty good. And this is selecting highlights around the next word coming up. So that looks cool. A lot of different ones to explore on your own. And again, remember, they have just a basic version of it too, where you could just choose like this kind of style if you don't want the animation to be very prominent. So you could go ahead and just reduce the colors. So it still has the animation, but you could see it's removed that blue color that we had, and it's just highlighting the next word coming up. That's captions, and that is text. And you also have stickers that kind of bundles into this. So if you wanted to add any of these stickers, you could go ahead and select any of them. And then these are all fully editable too, so you can make any adjustments to them. So I'm gonna bring this one down, for example. I'm gonna shrink it, make it tiny. Let's say I was talking about this thing, this turkey, and then that will appear as I'm talking about it, okay? In fact, this one is gonna mess with the caption placement, so I'll move it up. Those are left to right, everything we need to do to get our video ready. And then the next thing, step 9, is these things called effects and transitions. So I usually bundle effects, transitions, filters all into one. So let's say I want to go ahead and make something fun happen to this picture. Well, if I come under filters, I could add a ton of different filters like this one, okay? Way different now, right? Or let's see what this one looks like. Way different, right? Much more interesting. So those are the things you want to do here, is just explore some of these filters and see if they fit. In this case, none of these fit, so I'm just gonna undo that. But filters are really worth a try if your footage is not professional, you wanna really step it up. They have all these different tabs for that. Transitions are useful. Transition typically take place between 2 different clips. So here, I went from this clip and then it goes to this next clip. And right now it's just a cut. This is called a cut when there's no transition. If I select right here, I could add one of these, press plus. And sometimes you're gonna get an error message. It depends on the length of your clip. It's not gonna let you do it every time. But now if I press play, okay, that's really cool. Much more interesting than a cut. Now you could totally get carried away and overdo with these transitions. Again, I come from a professional filmmaking, video editing background, and this is not what we would do constantly. But for social media, sometimes it's fine. In commercials and films, you'll never see those type of transitions typically. And you could really get carried away with some of these pro options. But explore these, very easy to apply. And you also have this effects tab, which again, this adds things to your clip. So if I select this clip here, if I go ahead and download this one and press the plus sign, now this added it like this. Now let me show you what this clip looks like. Okay, really cool or not, depends on your taste. But it definitely brings some motion to that. That's called optical zoom. Lots of different things to explore. Again, I don't do a whole lot of these, but effects, transitions, and filters could really take it to the next level if you don't get carried away and just apply a subtle amount of these. I use it typically for commercials. So like Facebook ads, if I run those, they have a lot more transitions than my normal tutorial type stuff, because that will just be distracting if I'm constantly moving around with those type of transitions in these kind of videos. And then that brings us to step 10, which step 10 is this little export button. Okay, so we're done. Let's say we finished our project. We're happy with everything. We'll press export. That's going to bring us this menu. So the title, that's why we named it in the very beginning in step 1. That's going to take that title, but you could rename it. Export to, what part of your computer, what folder do you want to export to? And then these typically leave on default. So 1080p. Sometimes if you shot 4K, you could go ahead and change that, but 1080p is for social media is totally fine. For TikTok, for YouTube is fine. And Kodak, again, you don't want to change any of these, but these are the standard what you see. So if yours is not these, change it to these. H.264, MP4 is the format, and typically frame rate is 30 for social media, 24 if you're doing a type of film format, and audio gets compressed to MP3. Again, you don't need to change it. These are different types of compressions that are, this one's better, but not for social media type content. And then if you want to export your captions, this one exports it as an SRT file. This is not the caption you're visually seeing. That's going to get exported with the free version. But if you want a side caption, like a caption document, that's a SRT file. You need to pay for this option right here, this Pro. And then here it's going to show you the file size. So this is going to be 600 megabytes, kind of large, but it's a 5-minute video here. If I need to reduce it for some reason, I could change the bit rate here. So if I lower the bit rate, it's going to cut that in half. Recommended is usually what you want to go with. Again, beginner tutorial, so I'm not going to dive into what bitrate is, but that is where you would change it to reduce the file size if you need to for space on your computer or hard drive. Press export. It's going to go through the exporting process. It's really fast, depends on your computer, this part. And then if you want, you could directly post to YouTube and TikTok and things like that from here. I usually don't do that. This is actually not optimized at all for TikTok because this is not in that vertical format. Remember, that's why we should change our aspect ratio in the beginning of the process. But this is where you would go ahead and make any adjustments you want. And you can see the Pro option is making right now a TikTok video size. Really cool. It's doing it automatically. This requires Pro though. So I started with a YouTube video and I'm automatically getting a TikTok video out of it without doing anything. But I do need to upgrade, it looks like, in order to take advantage of that. Now, once this is ready, you could go ahead and open the folder where it's at right here. And there we go. Here's the video file that has the audio file, and it exported the MP3 as a separate file as well if I want to do a podcast or something with this. And then you could also press share, which that's going to open up TikTok here, and it's going to allow you to do all kinds of things with your TikTok account. But I typically like to download it to my computer and use the TikTok app or the YouTube app or the Instagram app to go ahead and post those on my own from that folder. Even if I need to airdrop it to my phone, for example, to do that. CapCut and TikTok are actually owned by the same company. That's why this has been really easy and is optimized for really TikTok videos as the primary thing it's made for. And the nice thing is when you close your project, it's always going to bring you here. The CapCut tutorial that I've been working on is always over here, very easy to access. And I can make any adjustment from here. And I'm working on an entire CapCut course. So check the description or the first comment below as soon as that's ready. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link there. And that's going to give you a full professional walkthrough on how to take CapCut from beginner to advanced. If you're taking this more seriously on the content creation side, that could be the next level. I hope you found this video useful. Good luck in your video creation process, and I will see you next time.